What's going on, everybody? This is Randall Barnes, the founder of HBCU Pulse and the host of HBCU Pulse Radio, in the building for another special edition of the show on today. Well, listen, this is truly a special moment. This is truly a special edition of the show because not only do we have an HBCU graduate, a Morehouse man in the building, a GQ writer, a journalist in the building, we have a director, a creative. Opus is coming out March the 10th. Man, I'm super excited. I got a chance to watch the screening of a movie. I feel important. You know what I mean? So we have Mark Anthony Green in the building. Morehouse, man, how you doing today?
Man, I'm fantastic. Incredible intro. And I'm stoked to be talking with you, talking about this film. I'm excited that it's out in the world very soon. March 14th. We're out everywhere in America. But yeah, I'm stoked.
Amazing.
What'd you think of the film?
Man, I really enjoyed it, man. Like it really challenged me to think because I like to think in the media that I watch, and I really got the opportunity to really think about like what was Mark trying to do here, like what was the overall theme of the movie, and that's what I really want to talk to you about in a second. Just some things that I gathered from the movie because of course I do my research. I saw your higher learning interview, and I'm sitting back. I'm like, I got some things I want to talk about, talking about tribalism, all the different things like that. So we're gonna talk about that, but we have to start with the HBCU experience. So tell me about your Morehouse experience and how it shaped you personally and professionally.
I'm 36 years old, and to this day, Morehouse is the best single decision I've ever made, attending that school. And I always say that Morehouse taught me who I am and the best version of that person, the version of that person I don't want to be. I have friends and family that will be in my life for the rest of my life. And as you know, as a graduate of HBCU, there's no experience like that. So when you see or hear anything from me, there is Morehouse in it. And that is one of the things I'm the most proud of, you know?
I love that. So what made you choose Morehouse as your HBCU? Because we know that Morehouse is a prestigious brand, an amazing name in HBCU culture. But what made you choose Morehouse?
Spelman.
I can understand that. That's the answer. I get it.
Yeah, no, I will say that a crazy thing happened. So the Love Below speaker box came out. And I was living in Kansas City. I grew up in Kansas City. And I was starting to get in that time where I needed to be thinking about colleges or what I was going to do after high school. And that album, The Love Below, blew my brain. I had never, I couldn't, still to this day, I can't articulate the first listen and what that experience meant to me. In fact, a story, I was supposed to go to the Sadie Hawkins dance with this girl that I had a big crush on. And that album came out. And I was about to take a shower, so I'm in a towel. And I press play, and I used to have a Nickelodeon CD player that I had when I was a kid, and I just, I never graduated from it. And I pressed play on the album, and if you remember, that album starts off with Andre doing like a ragtime, everybody needs somebody to love, and it just was so not a rap album. And I just stood there, and I had to get through the first song because it wasn't what I expected. And then I had to get through the second song because that wasn't what I expected. And before I knew it, I had stood there and listened to the whole album, and I was running late now. And instead of, I had a choice to make at that point. Like, do I go to this dance with this girl I got this crush on? And it's like a formal dance, like, suits and the whole thing. Or do I get to listen to this album again? And I stood her up and I listened to the album again, which is a terrible thing that young Mark Anthony did. And then that night, I asked my mother, were there colleges in Atlanta? And then I went to go visit Morehouse because she said, yes, Morehouse College. And then I fell in love with Spelman. and then I committed to Morehouse. So it's like a 1-2. Andre 3000 in this moment is how I got there. But yeah, it's the best decision that I have ever made.
Listen, I need your next decision to be to make a movie about that story or a short film. Like you need that needs to be on the screen somewhere.
We need. I feel like school days. One of the like problems when a master makes something is that they kind of take the subject matter off the table. And Spike Lee, Morehouse graduate, is a master of this form. And I feel like there are so few HBCU films that exist, and there should just be more. So I hope that happens. I hope that, if you listen to this and you're a HBCU grad, aspiring filmmaker, I hope you take something from this interview. But yeah, we need more HBCU films for sure.
Listen, I can go on and on about that. Like I've opined about that a lot of times in my career, and I really hold on to like the quad because that felt like that was my show when it came on BET. I will opine about that a lot, but we have to talk about Opus because listen, the movie is coming out soon. And listen, like I said, I heard your higher learning interview. One thing about me, and as an HBC graduate, we do our research. We know our information. So I just really want to talk to you about just the themes behind Opus, because I heard you talk about how the movie within itself was more about tribalism. But when I watched the movie, what I saw that was very interesting within the theme I thought was conveyed was celebrity idolatry. Because we have Moretti, Moretti's clearly some up with it with his dude, and no one sees it except Ariel. Like no one else sees it. So I want to sort of talk about that, like sort of the themes that you were trying to convey, because of course the deeper themes the audience has to discover that themselves. But at like a surface level, what do you want the audience to get from this movie?
Well, I think celebrity idolatry, tribalism, I kind of lump them in the same, dare I say, like dangerous cultural behavior folder, right? They're in the same trapper keeper. They may not be in the exact same thing, but they're taking us in a direction that I don't know if it still serves us. And yeah, so I think my job isn't to have the answers, and a film's job isn't to give you the answers or to posture as if it has the answers. I think a film's job at its most successful is provocative enough and evocative enough to make you, ask the questions and to sit with your friends and to talk about, to ask if this thing still serves us. And you guys are much smarter than I ever will be. And I'm hoping that this film, which is extremely fun, it's a wild ride. You've seen it. It's fun enough for us to continue to speak to one another, and this shared wild experience together. Hopefully some dialogue comes out of that brings us closer to just a better place.
I love that. I love that. If you're just joining us, we're talking to Mark Anthony Green, Morehouse alumnus, journalist, and also the director of the new film Opus that's coming out really soon. Make sure to check it out. We have to talk about Ariel Ecton because she was a very interesting main character, and
I named her after a Spelman graduate.
You love Spelman for real, don't you?
Yeah, that's crazy. I realized as soon as I was saying, I was like, that's one too many references to Spelman. But I'm in Atlanta right now, so it's like, how like around homecoming, you just get excited because you're back and you're gonna see people, and I'm gonna see a bunch of friends of mine and people that I haven't seen in so long. So it's at it's top of mind. I don't want anybody to think it's crazy.
No, it's not. It's not crazy because we understand HBCU. Like, see here, HBCU Post Radio, we understand, and we also understand Spelman, the number one HBCU. We understand their subjectiveness, but the list says the list.
And let me go ahead and say that, and I can't say this anywhere but HBCU Post. I think Morehouse is the number one HBCU. I don't care how y'all want to rank it. I don't care. And Spellman, I've said I love y'all 9 times on this broadcast alone, so y'all know that I love you. I don't believe that. Morehouse is the number one HBCU, and I'm sure wherever y'all attended, you think it's the number one HBCU. I don't give a damn about how they rank it or an endowment or any of that. Like, and I think that's the coolest thing about where we come from. Like, we have such a pride in our institutions and our relationship to them and their impact on us that is just not a traditional typical collegiate experience.
It isn't.
You wear it different, and I think that is like it's one of the things I'm the most proud of,
Right.
that I get to wear Morehouse everywhere I go.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because you said that Ariel, like that name is based off a Spelman woman, and that character, I think it's interesting that it had that HBCU energy to it because that character, me being in journalism, it really spoke to me because I know that in the higher learning interview, you talked about how the movie isn't necessarily about the media within itself, but one of the parts of the movie that was striking to me, and not to give spoilers, but that first scene when she's pitching that story, and what I noticed is that she was one of only 2 black people, unless I missed the shot when they panned over. She was one of only 2 black people, and she's pitching herself, saying, "Hey, like, hey, this is the story." And then it's like, "Hey, that's a good idea. You're not writing it though." I was like, that. I thought that was interesting. So, like, I know you said before that this wasn't really a film about media; it's more about tribalism and the interpretation of what the audience is bringing. But how much of your experience in journalism did you bring to the movie?
So in that scene in particular, none. So I want to jump into the weeds on it. Like, I did that job at GQ. I profiled celebrities and was a writer at the magazine, editor at the magazine for 13 years. I interned when I was a student. And yeah, so I know exactly what that job looks like and the nuances of it and the power dynamics. So that it's very authentic in the film because I did it. When I got to GQ, my experience, there was that outlook. I very, very much so shared the same outlook of Ariel's. And part of me is kind of making fun of the young Mark Anthony and how he thought this is how you're supposed to do this job, right? But I had very, very supportive editors, and my boss at the time, Jim Nelson, was super supportive. And no, I didn't get to write every story that I wanted to write, but no one gets to write every story they want to write. And I was definitely able, that feeling, I experienced that feeling in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of us have that feeling of, I have finally made it in the room that I busted my ass to get into, but I'm not getting to do the thing that I really want to do, that I so desperately believe I'm ready for, but I'm in the room. And so I wanted to explore that because, one, it felt like for a young Black person, an original plight, like, you have the great job, but you're super unfulfilled because you're not really getting the shot. And you have a boss that kind of has these microaggressions and these like backhanded statements. And that just felt deeply, deeply relatable. And I have felt that in many jobs. And so it didn't dawn on me. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear about, like, my editor, specifically Jim Nelson, Will Welsh, like, I never had that. If I did, I'd say it, but like, that just so wasn't my experience at that publication, in that very specific thing of like pitching an idea and then constantly being shut out to write it. But I've definitely felt that emotion many, many, many times over. Yeah, and I think we all have, it just seems like one thing I hear from people watching the film all the time is how relatable that moment is.
Yeah, I think that was the moment that really stuck out to me when it came to just her character and me being in journalism and sort of knowing from trying to really have the hustle and muscle, and even the conversation she has in that next scene with her friend. I saw a lot of elements of almost me when it came down to it, and that's a sort of a point I want to get to, because I know you were talking on higher learning about sort of the dichotomy of Black creativity when it comes to writing these films, right? Where you want folks to write Black films. You want a Black Panther to be created. You want it to be authentic to Black culture, but at the same time, a lot of us want to see Black folks in films, and they're not, like, their Blackness is not the central core element of what that film is about. But my take on it, though, is that, like you said in your answer, it's hard to divorce yourself from that experience, because even in that moment, you were writing about Ariel and you weren't really thinking about the GQ element or the journalism element of it, but you still were using your experience as a journalist to paint that picture. And someone that's not a journalist might not be able to fully elocute what it means to be in that meeting or what it means to be in that office. So for me, I want to see a diversity of Black creativity and Black projects, but that, you can't divorce yourself from that experience. I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, listen, man. I brush my teeth black. I'm drinking a vitamin water and I drink that black. I made this film black. There's a piece of me in every pixel of every frame of this movie. And the idea of Blackness, there's like this David Foster Wallace, he gave this commencement speech and he talks about these two fish, and the fish are discussing water, but they've never been out of water. So if you've never been out of water, like, what is, like, your concept of it? It's so natural, so innate. So, in, like, for us, Blackness is that. There is no time before Blackness to me. There's nothing more beautiful. There's nothing more interesting. There's nothing more comfortable. There's nothing more cinematic to me than that. So this film doesn't deal with racism. And I think often we confuse Blackness and racism, right? This movie was written by a Black man, directed by a Black man. The DP is a Black man. Produced, one of the producing companies is Macro, which is a Black-owned production company. The music is done by two Black men. The Dream and Now, like, there's so much Blackness in this film and Black creativity. And there is a protagonist that is a young Black woman that never does something stupid. She never falls when she's being chased. She never runs into the room. You're not constantly screaming at the screen, being like, why did she do that? Whatever. Like, she's Black. She's in the script, you don't see, barely can see it, but she's a HBCU grad. Like, she, to me, this is a Black film. And I think that, there have to be films that have Black leads, Black people at the helm creatively of the films, that don't deal with racism. Because, as you know, which is one of the beautiful thing about HBCUs, is that, when you separate that element out of it, the experience of the Black diaspora, it's so diverse. Morehouse, despite the fact that all 99% of the students at Morehouse are Black men between the age of 18 and 22 that are American, it is the most diverse place I've ever been. I went to school with a Black Jewish practicing Republican who played spades at, like, a borderline expert level. And I went to school with a guy who spoke Japanese almost better than he spoke English, had never been on a date. And, like, we were all so very different. And the guys from Detroit versus the guys from Harlem, and the first time we all would meet, and how different that was. Like, Blackness is so diverse, and racism is not the sole experience that we have. So I think that films that tackle racism are very important. Films that tackle sexism, homophobia, they're very important. But when that's all you see, when you see a marginalized person from a community, from a marginalized community, when that's the only thing that you explore in film, I think that that's when people like you and I start to have an issue, right? When there are other films like Opus, hopefully, that we feel celebrate that, but it's not about that. I think that it diversifies that and it more accurately reflects us. And I think that's what could be more worthwhile than that, you know?
Yeah, and I think that what you said is key. We have to go in and go, but I got to say this: when you talk about how diverse Blackness is, that's something that's uniquely an HBCU experience that I think a lot of folks, even other Black folks, don't understand until you get on that campus, and they might think it's because hey, they're from different areas of the world. Like, no, you have like because I'm from Macon, Georgia. The way that someone from Atlanta consorts themselves is similar, but also different from someone from Macon.
It's different. Macon's different. It's a different zone. And I love that, man. And I just want to say, because I know we got to escape, but platforms like this, one, you're very good at this job. And I know that, you will continue to grow this and grow this conversation and all of that. So I'm proud of you and I'm honored that you had me on. But like HBCU grads, we are a privileged group of people. That is such a special experience. And so just want to remind us of that. Like it's such a uh God, it is such a superpower to have that experience in your heart, that you can have an awful day or you can be in a room where no one looks like you and then remember freshman year, remember senior week, remember Olive Branch, remember Hump Wednesday or whatever your thing was at your respective school, like whatever that was, you can remember that and hold on to that, and you have those people in your life. Like we are very, very fortunate, and this was a such an honor, and it's a big deal for me. So thank you.
Yeah, it's an honor for me too, man. I'm proud of you and what you're doing. Like the film, like the first thing I saw is as a mass comm major. It looks beautiful, man. Like it is a great looking film, and for me, I think that that's something that's important. The sound is always important to me, but also the look of it. It feels big. It feels like you're immersed in this world and you're on that compound when they get there. So I really like that, and I really love the fact that you're continuing to put HBCUs at the forefront. And
All
even though you are a Morehouse man, you're a representative of all HBCUs. So we definitely
absolutely,
appreciate you for coming
yeah,
on. And I need for all HBCUs, and especially Spelman, to check out Opus. Because listen,
yes,
are you
yeah,
shouting out Spelman?
please,
Spelman
please.
needs to hold a screening. If that's not, you might already have that in the bed, but Spelman needs to hold a screening now.
They might not after I said they not number one,
Oh
but
yeah, they might not.
that's okay. We'll forgive each other. But yeah, please check this film out. I made it for us, always thinking about us, and most of all, I just want y'all to have a fun time going to it. And again, I made this so that smart people with the answers can do that. And I think the brightest minds are at HBCUs and graduates at HBCUs. So, I'm really hoping y'all dig it.
I love it. I love it. And we will. So last question is I need you to shout out the movie and let us know where we can support you, where we can follow you on social media, and also let us know everything about the movies so we can check it out.
Don't worry about following me. None of that. Opus, major motion picture from A24 and myself, starring Ayo Debris and John Malkovich. It is in every movie theater in your town. It's in every town. March 14th. Go take a friend, take a loved one, take a crush. I've been told that this movie's so good, it'll make your crush fall in love with you. It's so good that if you have the flu, it'll cure your flu. I've been told that it's so good that if you have like a speech impediment, you speak very clearly after. I've been told all these things. I'm not guaranteeing these things. The studio is. So if you have any complaints, write them. But please go see this film. It's super fun, provocative, thoughtful, and yeah, I'm very, very proud of it.
And I'll add this too before we go. If you are in school at an HBCU and you need to go see it and class is going on, tell your professor, Mark will write the excuse.
I will definitely write the excuse, and you can tell them that I missed a lot of classes. And look, I turned out okay.
Turned out okay.
So you'll be all right.
Listen, they'll be all right, because that happens sometimes. But listen, I love it. Listen, this is an amazing interview. Mark Anthony Green, Morehouse alumnus, journalist, and director of the new movie Opus, coming to theaters on March the 14th. Man, thank you so much for coming on. You're listening to HBCU Pulse Radio.
Yeah.
Like what you hear?
Yeah.
Subscribe to HBCU Pulse Radio on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also, head to hbcupulse.com to stay up to date on what's going on in the HBCU community. Thank you for listening to HBCU Pulse Radio.